Today, I'm going to talk about networking. And as a mentor, one of your jobs is to really help those that you support in being better networkers, because being a good networker actually leads to more success. Inventing or innovating in a closet doesn't get you anywhere. You need to connect with people and let them support you. So I'm going to talk about how to be curious about the people you meet throughout your career. And remember, someone you meet now may not be valuable today, but they could be valuable tomorrow. And also remember that it's not all about you. If you can help them, they're going to be more welcoming to help you in the work that you do. So networking is critical. I have been networking my entire career. It's not easy. It's uncomfortable. Yet, when you finally start building relationships, because it is about relationships, it's not about one-off conversations most of the time. So network. How do you do that? Curiosity. Be curious. Now, this is really easy for some. For those introverts in the crowd, this is not as easy. But get out of your comfort zone and start meeting people, because this is what's going to help you move things forward, especially if, say, you're an engineer and you don't know much about entrepreneurship. Talking to people who are will help you get through that process. So the value of this is really important. So networking, let's talk about, in person. I realize that right now we're doing this virtually. But in person, when you go out to an event and you meet a bunch of people, the first thing you should be doing is looking through the attendee list to find out who you might want to get to know and meet. I sure wish that at these events, when they give you name tags, it actually says where they're from and not just their name, their first name, last name smaller, and then where they're from. It will be helpful, but they don't always do that. So look at that attendee list or scan around or ask people who know that community and say, who should you be meeting with during this? When you get their card, I know that maybe that's a generational thing, but when you can get their card right on the back of it, how do you know them? Where did you meet them? What do they do? And what you might get from them in having a deeper conversation and a relationship. What might you learn from them is really the question, not what you can get from them, but what can you learn from them? Keep those cards available and get them in your computer immediately in your contact file. You can do it, in a regular contact file, or you could do it, in a spreadsheet or whatever works for you, and keep track of those so that you can search them and find people from different places. On Zoom, this is a really interesting new thing we can do, is when you're on Zoom or when you're in a meeting, say you're at a conference and you're in a room with 30 or 40 people, and maybe some people introduce themselves, maybe you see someone say something, hear somebody talk about something, and you say, I really want to learn more about that person and hear what they have to say, maybe get some feedback on your idea and your venture. So what you do is you send them a private chat. Make sure you don't send it to everybody. That's a mistake that some people make. Send them a private chat and saying, I heard you say this thing. That's fascinating. It's really important that I'd love to get to know you. So can we set up a chat meeting, some kind of a Zoom meeting in the future? Oh, by the way, I'm going to go backwards a little bit. When I go to conferences, I try to come up with interesting questions of the speakers. You could do it in Zoom as well. And so that people will say, oh, this guy is thinking really an interesting way. Maybe I want to get to know them. So when I ask these questions, are not your normal questions, but questions that uncover things that other people may or may not have been thinking about, I find a lot of times people will come to me. Like I asked a question, they said, wow, that was fascinating. Can we talk more? So it's constantly building your reputation amongst these people, whether it's in person or online. And another thing you might want to do is beyond physically meeting them is going out there and reading a lot. Watch videos, watch YouTubes, watch, look at articles. And when you see something interesting about someone or written by someone, try to reach out to them. There are many ways of finding people's email addresses, but doing a search is a lot easier than it used to be. So when you see an article and it talks about someone in the work that they're doing, it may not be directly related, but there might be something about what they did that might be valuable to you. So go out there and reach out to them. Reach out to them. Blind emails. Now, this is an interesting problem. A lot of people give up after the first time. I don't. I send a note out, and it's never about, can you help me? It's, you're really interesting, and I want to learn more about what you're doing and how you do it. So it's always about being curious, not about, I need you. Don't sound needy. Don't sound like I need your help. It's always about how you can have this mutual relationship and move things forward. So your goal is to learn from them, and maybe they can learn from you as well and provide value, even if they're highly experienced, because I always find the most successful people are those people who are always learning throughout their life. So once you do that and they don't respond, I would say, I don't know, 20% of the time you get a response. And then what I do, I just take the same email and I do reply all. It's really just reply to them and you say, you must be really busy. I really appreciate all the stuff that you're doing. And I would love to connect. And maybe if you've got some time next week, like 10 minutes, I'd love to chat with you, 15 minutes, whatever. What that does is you probably got pushed off to some to-do list that they may or may not ever get to, but reminding them, someone once said, Stephen, that's your guilt trip approach. Yeah, it might be a little bit of guilt trip, but it's more reminding them and putting your personal interest or your focus in the front of their minds now. And I find, and when I urge other people, entrepreneurs and students, I find that 90, 80% of the time they'll respond back. And if after doing that twice, they don't, give it up and maybe redo it in 6 months when they're not so busy. And some people just are not responders and not emailers. And so they just never do it. A lot of times I'll try to reach out to people who are surrounding them. It is always important when you're dealing with high-level executives. If you want to call them, that's a great thing too, but always do it before 7:30 their time in the morning. There's two things about that. One, you might get that person to talk to. If you email them, it's actually they're done with their Monday email. They're starting from their weekend email. They're starting from scratch again, and it's good to get them with an email. If you want to make a call, which is always great because people don't call anymore blindly, call and say, look, I'd love some time. Do you have any more time you can give me now? Or we could talk sometime next week. If you call before 8 o'clock in the morning, there's a chance that there are two people that might answer. It might be the actual person, the entrepreneur, the expert who might be answering the phone because there's no one sort of screening their calls. The second thing that might, and of course, it's a little different now that people mostly use their cell phones, but if you call in their office. The other thing is you might get their assistant and they are gatekeepers. And so you have to convince the gatekeeper that it'll be valuable to them and you to connect with them. And so, but just don't make up stories, like just be real about it and transparent. Say, look, I read an article about them and I want to talk with them. And sometimes they will be like, they really love talking to, developing entrepreneurs and they want to talk with you. Can we set up a time next week, 15 minutes, state your case and have a conversation. So those are the people, those gatekeepers are really, really important. When you do a social networking map to understand how people connect, you find that those gatekeepers actually in some cases are more important than the people themselves in terms of getting access and giving you feedback. So I think that one thing about these informal connections with people is a lot of times I find entrepreneurs want to build a board and they say, oh, how do I get board members? So I want that person on my board. Let me reach out to them and ask them. Well, chances are 9 times out of 10, they will never say yes because they don't know what you're doing. They don't know. And even if you state a good case, what you really need to do is build a relationship. So you reach out to someone, want to have a conversation, want to learn about what they do. They should learn about what you do. And then say, can I call you back in another couple of weeks or a month to sort of fill you in on what I'm doing and get your feedback? Build that over time. It may take 3 to 6 months, but over time, you now have a relationship with them and they're more willing to A, take your call and B, possibly be on your board of advisors or your board of directors. Really important because you want good people. You don't want, because if everyone has said, there was a line, why would I join a club that would take me on as a member? I think it was a Woody Allen line, if you remember Woody Allen, but really is you want people who don't know you yet. Yes, you want some people who know you on a board, but you want people who don't know you and you've worked over time to build their trust. And you remember, time is money. So the time you take from them is money they're not making. So you need to convince them that it's worth their while to spend the time. The last thing I want to say is about asking. You'd be shocked at how many people want to help you. You may say, well, why would they want to help me? They're a successful entrepreneur, they're an expert, they're an author, they're a YouTube channel star. You'd be surprised at how many people want to help you, why they want to pay it forward. They want to help the next generation of themselves, and B, they're curious about what other people are doing so they can learn from people who see the world in a much fresher light than themselves. They get steeped in their own work, and they're most successful entrepreneurs are successful learners, and they're always looking to learn. Your job is to convince them that having a conversation with you is a learning process that will help them go to the next step for themselves as well as you. That's really it. So again, it's not about you, it's about them, making sure that the value of their time is something that you appreciate and support. So as a mentor, these are the kinds of skills and techniques you can work with your mentees about, and you should use it yourself, because sometimes your mentors will say, can you introduce me to someone? Now, here's the last thing, is make sure you say thank you. Thank you for making introductions. I get a little frustrated when I give someone a connection and then I never hear back. I don't know whether they've ignored them, they've sort of forgot calling them or whatever. And then I get a call like so-and-so never called me. Or they go forward, they even create a business partnership and no one tells you. You want to know how strong your network is. And it's not all about getting numbers of people on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, whatever. Yes, that is important because you see who you've got, but it's really about the quality and the sort of the strength of that bond and that relationship. So go out there, network, and seek the support you need to help you be more successful. It'll save you time in the end, and it'll make you more valuable in the work that you do. Thank you very much.